Hello everyone, this is Dave Witcher, and welcome to my channel. Tonight, I thought I would talk a little bit about Saturn and the meaning of Saturn in astrology. So Saturn has been coming up a lot in astrology lately, mainly because Saturn has been in Capricorn, or was in Capricorn for its own home sign for quite some time last year and some this year. So there was a major significance on the amount of energy that the Saturn Capricorn alignment was placing upon everyone here on Earth. And then most recently, just last week, Saturn also went into retrograde. And so a lot of people were coming on and talking about Saturn being in retrograde. And generally what I've found is that most people who study astrology have this idea of Saturn as Saturn being the Lord of Karma, the taskmaster, the Lord of restrictions. Some generally very negative views of Saturn. And so I thought I would come on and give you my take about Saturn. And I think that these views of Saturn are basically still they still come from a foundation of this lack and limitation mindset upon which the majority of our astrology is based, or interpreted, I should say. I think it's not that the astrology was based in lack and limitation mindset, but when you take the astrology and you have a lack and limitation mindset, you're going to interpret it in these kinds of ways. As, you know, the Lord of Karma. Well, you did something wrong and you're going to have to fix it. Or, you know, this is a taskmaster. Saturn's here to teach you something whether you like it or not. Or the Lord of Restriction. It's going to refine you and restrain you and confine you and restrict you. And to me, that just screams and shouts lack and limitation. Because on the other hand, what are we always taught? We're always taught that as spiritual beings, we live in a universe of infinite abundance. And that we have infinite possibilities, infinite capabilities. And so this just doesn't sit with me, you know. I as I was hearing all of these people talking about this, you know, I never gave it a second thought. But over the years, as I kept hearing these dual messages of, on the one hand, we're infinite spirits and we exist in a universe of infinite energy and infinite possibility, and yet here we have Saturn, the Lord of Karma, the great taskmaster, you know, restriction and all of this kind of stuff. It just clashed. I thought these two ideas don't belong in the same framework. You can't live in a world of infinite possibility and then be talking about karma and restrictions and tasks, you know, like vigorous taskmasters. They don't work together. And so I did a lot of digging. I kept doing more and more digging. And what I came up with is what I want to talk about with Saturn. So if you look at Saturn, Saturn is actually a Romanization of a Greek god, Cronus. Now, a lot of people, including the Greeks and the Romans, apparently, confused and conflated Cronus with Chronos. So Chronos, Chronos, is the personification of time, and that's where we get the Father Time from, right? And that's why, you know, in the past, as the year was turning from, you know, late December 31st into January 1st, you would have the old Father Time, you know, handing things over to the new baby time, right? Well, that's from Chronos, Chronos, but Cronus, Cronus, was the Titan who overthrew his father Uranus by castrating him. He literally cut off his testicles with a stone sickle and cast them into the oceans. And out of one of the testicles, that when it went into the ocean, it created this great foaming, and up from the sea foam rose the goddess Aphrodite. And in Roman mythology, Aphrodite was Venus, right? So both Venus and Aphrodite were goddesses whose functions encompassed love, beauty, desire, sex, fertility, but also prosperity and victory. Both, most people don't realize, but both Aphrodite and Venus were warrior goddesses. They weren't just basically the goddesses of, the patron goddesses of prostitutes, is what most people think of them. But they were really more about fertility, and fertility in the sense of creation, and harvest, and wealth, and abundance, prosperity, right? They were really about creation and prosperity, which is what abundance is all about, right? But victory as well, right? So Cronus created Aphrodite when he overthrew his father Uranus, the sky goddess Uranus, and such was the same as Saturn. So, but again, I want to go back. Both of these gods were conflated with and associated with Cronus, so they also took on this aspect of being moving. They had this time aspect, so moving the wheel of time forward, moving the zodiac wheel forward. So it was that forward motion of the wheel of time, and that has to do with going back to one of their major things that they were worshipped for, which was the prosperity and wealth. So both under Saturn's rule and under Cronus's rule, so it was known as the golden time, the golden age, right? So the period in which Cronus ruled was called the golden age, as the people of the time had no need for laws or rules. Everyone did the right thing, and immorality was absent. So that could be why they're considered, the Lord of Karma, because you're supposed to be doing the right thing, and if you're not doing the right thing, you are in conflict with Kronos/Saturn, which they want you to do the right thing. Why did they want you to do the right thing? Well, because under Saturn's rule, humans enjoyed the spontaneous bounty of the earth without labor. Let me read that again. Under Saturn's rule, humans enjoyed the spontaneous bounty of the earth without labor. So the reason why Saturn wants you to do the right thing, the reason why Saturn is the Lord of Karma, which is doing the right thing, is so you can enjoy the spontaneous bounty and abundance of life on earth without labor. All right. So that's, I want to get into at some point what I think karma is. And I'll just get into it really quickly here, I guess. For me, the way I view karma is nothing more than the ways that each one of us are holding ourselves back from receiving abundance. Again, it's nothing more than the ways in which each one of us are internally sabotaging ourselves and holding back abundance. So the reason why we keep having these karmic loops is that we're trying to, the universe is trying to give us this abundance. And instead of receiving the abundance that is naturally our right under the rule of Saturn, right, to receive this abundance, we have these patterns in which we incorporate to prevent ourselves from receiving this abundance. And so maybe that pattern shows up. It's a recurring pattern. You have the same kind of job over and over, no matter what company you go to. You're always underpaid, or you always have a boss that you don't like or don't get along with. Or maybe you're dating the same kind of person over and over again, which leads you into an unhappy relationship. It's these patterns that show up over and over again because the universe is trying to give us this abundance, and we keep blocking that abundance. We keep blocking ourselves from receiving that abundance in the same way. And so what karma really is not that that we've done anything wrong and we're trying to pay a karmic debt. Karma really is that if we would get right with ourselves, abundance will naturally flow to us, right? Which is why Saturn is the Lord of Karma. He's trying to give us abundance. And Saturn is actually giving you a hint, a clue of how you can change your behavior in order to receive this abundance, how you can unblock yourselves. And that's what Saturn is there in your chart to do, right? So abundance is associated with abundance and time. So where does the restriction come into this? Well, if you want to create anything, because we live in four-dimensional space-time, right? We have three physical dimensions and one dimension of time. In order for anything to get created, energy, everything is energy. Einstein told us that. Everything is energy. But for things, things to actually exist as separate items, like a pen, that energy has to condense into a form that is recognizable as a pen. That form is a restricted form of energy. All of that energy is restricted into this form. Otherwise, it would just be this massive soup of undefinable energy. And that's what it was right after the Big Bang. There was just this giant massive soup of undefinable energy. It was pure energy. Nothing existed except that homogeneous blob of energy. And so for us to have anything, all of that energy had to condense into various restricted forms. That's why Saturn is the Lord of restriction. It's not like you're grounded and you can't go somewhere, not that kind of restriction. But it literally is just definition. To define is to restrict something, right? It is to cut it off from everything else. It is to say it is this and not this. That's a definition. You're creating a restriction. That's what Saturn's about. That's why Saturn is the Lord of abundance. Saturn is literally the Lord of abundance. He's not some mean entity that's trying to give you a hard time. It's actually the entity that's trying to help you bring abundance into your life. So you look at where Saturn is in your chart, and literally that is the area that you need to focus your time and energy on in order to create or allow abundance into your life. It's going to help you with your harvest of abundance. So personally, I have Saturn in my 5th house in Aries. Okay, so a placement, you've got 3 things. We have the planet Saturn. It's in the 5th house, which is also in the sign of Aries. So Saturn is saying, hey, Dave, if you want to create abundance in your life, you have to look at Aries in your fifth house. So let's look at Aries first. Well, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so it's basically the sign of the self, which Saturn is saying, I have to look to myself. I have to put my time and efforts in doing things not based on what other people are telling me to do, but doing things based on the ideas that come from within myself. So I have to really go in and forge my own way. I have to embrace these my own interests and passions, and I have to trust them. I have to really trust that what I want to do with my life is like the right thing to do. I have to trust in myself. And then the fifth house is the house of Leo. And it's how you put yourself out into the world. It's also the house of self, but it's how you put yourself out to the rest of the people. So what Saturn is telling me is that in order for me to find abundance, I cannot go and work for somebody else. I cannot, no matter how hard I tried, and I tried really hard. I mean, I tried for 18 years, and I climbed really high up in the video game industry, and it just was not, no matter how high I went, like I was just not, getting anywhere. Like the abundance was not flowing. I was clawing my way. It felt like I was swimming upriver, putting in an awful lot of effort and not getting what I was getting back was not commensurate with the effort I was putting in. Right. So, and Saturn was saying, no, you can't do that. This is not your path in life. You have to really trust what is coming up for you, like what I'm interested in doing, what I'm passionate about. I have to trust that, and then I have to put it out to the world. So this YouTube channel is a big step in that direction of just saying, okay, I'm going to talk about what I'm interested in, and I'm going to do it not behind closed doors. I used to do that for years with my great friends, and we would talk about these kinds of things. But in order for abundance to flow, I need to share it with the world. This is what I need to do. I need to embrace the things that are coming up for myself that I'm interested in and put them out to the rest of the world. So that's Saturn in Aries in the fifth house. So look to your placement of Saturn in your chart. And Saturn isn't trying to make things hard on you. Saturn is actually trying to help make things easier for you. And he's going to point you in the direction where you should focus your time and efforts. He's basically saying, look over here. This is the shortcut. This is the way, the easy way to create abundance in your life. Now, it may not be emotionally easy, but that's not Saturn's fault. That's our fault, right? We're the ones who create our stories and emotions around what's emotionally easy and what's emotionally difficult, right? There's nothing difficult about getting in front of a camera and creating a video to share with the rest of the world unless you make it difficult. So I have personally made it difficult for myself. It's always a challenge for me to get in front of the camera and create a video. But it's nothing different than what I would do if I were, out having coffee with a friend and we were discussing this, with each other. It's not like it's this great strain on me. I tell you what great strain on me would be is like working math, right? that would be a great strain. Or how about doing a lot of yard work? I mean, yard work, especially if you're doing landscaping. I did landscaping for a summer, and that was the summer right after I got out of the Army. I was in the best physical shape of my life, and it kicked my butt. It was so hard. I have so much respect for people who do landscaping as a business. And I was no slouch in the military. I did I mean, I was in the infantry. I did a lot of work. I was in extremely good shape. I went and did a summer of landscaping, and it kicked my butt. It was really hard work. That's hard work. So emotionally easy, but extremely hard work. Doing this is extremely easy, but emotionally very difficult for me. All right. So, but Saturn is saying, if you do this, abundance will flow. This is how abundance is going to work for me. So I encourage you all, look in your charts, find Saturn, find the house that it's in, and the sign that it's in, and understand how that sign and that house work together to give you clues as to how to easily make abundance start to flow in your life. Because Saturn is giving you that hint. It's like the hint book. If you've ever played a video game, you can buy hint books, and the hint books will tell you, hey, go over here and you can find treasure on the map. And that's what Saturn is doing. It's not a bad planet. It's not a hard planet. But it's pointing us in a direction where, for our own emotional reasons, we don't want to go. And so it seems like Saturn is the taskmaster and is giving us a hard lesson. It's not true. Saturn is pointing us to the shortcut, the easy way, the treasure. It says, go here and you'll find treasure. And we're the ones who make it difficult. So anyway, that I'm going to leave it at that. But so Saturn in retrograde is saying it's time to go back in and take stock of, where are we focusing our time and our energies? And are we focusing them in ways that are going to bring abundance into our life or not? That's all Saturn in retrograde is doing. It's just, and it may be uncomfortable. It's been very uncomfortable for me. However, there's nothing wrong with feeling uncomfortable. It's okay. It's not life-threatening. There's nothing life-threatening about feeling uncomfortable. It's just, we live in so much luxury these days, we don't like feeling uncomfortable. And also, when you feel uncomfortable about something that's kind of unknown, it kicks in that fear of the unknown, which is part of our, survival mechanism, right? We're very wary about unknown stuff. But guaranteed, nothing that Saturn is going to make you feel is life-threatening. It's just going to be pointing you in a direction where you have blocked yourself. And if you can walk through that emotional discomfort, you will find treasure on the other side, guaranteed. So take this time, Saturn in retrograde. It's a fantastic time to discover where you are focusing your time and your energies. Find that thing that makes you feel really uncomfortable and walk towards it. Go towards it. You will find treasure. All right. That's it for today. I hope you all are doing well. We're getting into summertime here in the northern hemisphere, and towards wintertime if you're in the southern hemisphere. Both are great times. And so get outside, enjoy the weather. We all need the vitamin D. And I'll just give a really quick plug. There was I was watching the Joe Rogan Experience with this doctor that her name's Rhonda something or other. Anyway, she had a really enlightening talk about vitamin D and why it's so important to get vitamin D. I mean, I've always known that I've long known that vitamin D was important for our immune system, but this shed new light on it. This gave me some new understanding of that. And so I encourage you all to get out in the sun. But if you're in the wintertime, take vitamin D supplements. Or even for those of us who are in the summertime and we don't get out very often, take your vitamin D supplements. But get out anyway. Have a great time. And I will see you next week. Thank you.